You already started the next one. You did not decide to. You did not pause, weigh anything, consider your schedule, or ask yourself whether you actually wanted more. The video simply began. And your brain, without a single conscious instruction from you, accepted it. That moment, the one where you would have asked yourself, should I keep watching? Used to exist. It was brief, sometimes only 3 or 4 seconds. But it was yours. It was the gap between one piece of content and the next, and inside that gap, something important happened. You exercised judgment. You made a choice. In 2012, Netflix removed it. Not by accident. Not as a side effect of some technical update. They identified that gap, studied what happened inside it, and concluded that it was costing them watch time. So they engineered it out of existence. The pause was a vulnerability in their system. Now it is gone. And so is the decision that lived inside it. The question is not whether autoplay is convenient. Most people agree that it is. The question is what happened to a part of your decision-making that was quietly reassigned, from you to an algorithm, and whether you ever noticed it leaving. Most people did not. That is not carelessness. That is the design working exactly as intended. In behavioral science, the decision to stop doing something is not the same as the decision to start. Psychologists call them asymmetric default effects. When you actively choose to watch a video, your brain runs a small cost-benefit calculation. Duration, interest level, competing obligations, how tired you already are. It takes less than a second, but it happens. When content begins automatically, that calculation is bypassed entirely. The next state, watching, is already in motion before your prefrontal cortex has been consulted. You are not a passive viewer. You are a viewer who has already started before you decided to be. This distinction was not discovered by Netflix. It was documented long before streaming existed. In 1995, psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his colleague Gary Klein were separately mapping how human beings make decisions under real-world conditions. Kahneman's framework, later formalized in his 2011 book Thinking, Fast and Slow, described 2 competing systems inside every human brain. System 1, fast, automatic, effortless, operating below conscious awareness. System 2, slow, deliberate, effortful, requiring sustained attention. The gap between videos, those few seconds you used to have, was forcing System 2 online. Autoplay keeps you in System 1 indefinitely. And System 1 does not evaluate. System 1 does not weigh competing options. System 1 accepts what arrives. Netflix engineers understood this before most behavioral scientists were willing to say it publicly. In an internal 2014 product review, later referenced in a 2018 Wired profile on Netflix's design philosophy, senior engineers described the autoplay feature as a friction reduction intervention. That phrase matters. Friction, in UX design, is any moment where the user must exert effort or make a deliberate decision. Removing friction is presented as a user benefit, a convenience, an improvement, a kindness. But every moment of friction that is removed is also a moment of agency that disappears. The convenience and the control loss are the same event. Netflix called one of them a feature and quietly retired the other. They never announced which one they retired. The autoplay countdown timer, that small circle ticking down from 5 seconds before the next episode begins, was not designed to give you time to decide. It was designed to create the impression that you could, while weighting the default option so heavily in one direction that almost nobody ever selects the alternative. In a 2019 study published in the journal Computers and Human Behavior, researchers at the University of Amsterdam found that the countdown timer actually increased binge-watching rates compared to immediate autoplay, because it created what they called a false sense of control. Viewers believed they had chosen to continue. They had not. They had simply not interrupted. The illusion of a choice that was never genuinely available. This is a different kind of manipulation than most people expect. It is not about showing you content you want. It is about ensuring the next content begins before the part of your brain that governs self-regulation, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, consistently identified in willpower research at Stanford Center on Longevity, has had sufficient time to re-engage. The window between episodes is not a pause. It is a race. And the platform always has a head start. By 2016, Netflix reported that autoplay had increased average viewing time per session by 38 minutes. That number did not come from users enjoying their shows more deeply. It came from users not stopping. There is a difference. The platform's metrics count both the same way. But here is the dark turn. The autoplay feature was not Netflix's original innovation. The concept was pioneered by YouTube in 2012, launched the same year Netflix adopted it, as part of what YouTube's then head of product, Hunter Walk, described in a 2013 blog post as an effort to reduce dropout at the end of video. Walk later became one of the most outspoken critics of the feature he helped build. In a 2017 Medium essay, he called autoplay the most passive-aggressive design decision in the history of consumer media, because it does not coerce you. It simply makes stopping the choice that requires effort, while continuing requires nothing at all. Human beings, in the absence of a strong reason to act, do not act. This is not weakness. It is the brain conserving energy. The platforms mapped this tendency with extraordinary precision and built their default states directly around it. What makes this darker than simple engagement optimization is what was riding alongside the content. In 2018, researchers at the Data and Society Research Institute published a report specifically on autoplay's role in what they called algorithmic rabbit holes, content sequences where each automatically loaded video is selected not for quality or relevance, but for its statistical probability of extending the session. The content chosen to follow you is not meant to serve you. It is ranked by engagement likelihood, and engagement likelihood correlates most strongly with emotional intensity, not with accuracy, depth, or value. The platform is not curating for you. It is curating for a metric. And that metric measures exactly one thing, whether you stayed. You were never the audience. You were the resource being managed. Step back from the mechanics for a moment and look at what has been built across an entire industry. Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Amazon Prime Video, the underlying design logic is identical across all of them. Remove the moment of redecision. Make continuation effortless. Make stopping the act that requires will. Then measure, in aggregate, across hundreds of millions of users, how many minutes per session you recovered by eliminating the gap. Those recovered minutes are someone's quarterly earnings target. They are a number in a product roadmap. They have a name, a team, and a budget behind them. Your decision, the small, quiet, completely ordinary moment where you would have asked yourself whether you still wanted to be watching, was worth billions of dollars per year in aggregate time across a platform's total user base. Which means it was not allowed to exist. The next time you finish something and the next video begins, notice what happens in the first 2 seconds. Notice that your attention is already engaged before you have decided to give it. Notice that you are watching before you have chosen to watch. The decision was not taken from you dramatically. There was no moment you could identify or object to. It was removed in a product update, framed as a convenience, and replaced with something that looks almost identical, a countdown, a choice you technically have but practically never exercise. What you lost was not significant enough to feel like a loss. That is precisely why it worked. And the video you are watching right now, this one, began exactly the same way.